Hey there, welcome to the House Music Connection podcast. I'm your host, Tony Fuel. Each week, I have a conversation with a different artist where we discuss personal stories, challenges, successes, production process, and more. Ultimately, the goal is for all of us to feel a greater sense of connection to the house music community and to one another. So let's get right into the conversation. Heidi B, welcome to the House Music Connection podcast. It's good to have you on the show. I've seen your podcast and heard your podcast, and you're doing some really good work with that. So I wanted to invite you to, kind of spread the love and spread the vibe a little bit of, us fellow podcasters. And I feel like the more the merrier. And there's not enough podcasts out there. So hopefully people will get more familiar with our podcasts and connect with each other through the podcasts.
Yeah.
So welcome. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for listeners?
Yeah, thank you, Tony. I'm really, really glad and happy that you invited me to do this collaboration and share between us podcasters and househeads.
Yeah.
I am Heidi B. I'm an artist. I am a music producer. I'm a DJ, singer-songwriter, high vibe label owner, and also recently now a podcast host of Heidi's House podcast, which is also focusing on the global house music culture and embracing it. So yeah, I'm very glad to be here and share a little bit about my house music journey and who knows what else.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I'm originally coming from Finland. Also, currently in Finland, have been living many years abroad, in Germany, in Italy, in UAE, which is United Arab Emirates, close to Dubai.
Yeah.
Almost a decade there. So have been around, so to say, and now came back to Helsinki a few years ago and continuing my music journey here, and who knows where next.
Yeah. Cool. Sounds like it's been quite the adventure. So yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about that. All right. So a lot of us are doing this, house music thing part-time, kind of around our day job. What's your day job?
Well, I actually have a background in education and in psychology, and currently I work in the education related tasks. So I've been doing training, I've been doing teaching, I've been doing counseling, I've been doing educational administration, and currently I'm teaching. And along all of that, I have been running this own artist brand of mine and my label. And I'm also a trained professional musician. So I studied musicology and I studied vocals. So I have degrees on those. And that's my background also.
Very cool. Do you is voice your only instrument, or do you have other instruments as well?
Yes, I actually started with the classical piano.
Okay.
So that was my first instrument, even though my first love has always been and always will be singing, obviously. But I did start to train classical piano, and I did it quite a long time, about 16 years, like seriously. And then it kind of faded away, and I kind of got more interested on contemporary piano and keyboard. So I went into, pop and jazzy, kind of playing and that kind of thing. Then I play a bit guitar, and then some percussion instruments.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to learn the bass now also, and probably will.
I'm sure you will. It sounds like you've got the dedication for a lot of different things.
Yeah, I
So
love music, and I love,
yeah,
being a musician as well. That's part of me.
you mentioned you started off with classical and playing classical piano and then contemporary piano. How did you get into house music?
Well, that's a very, very, very long story,
Okay.
and it actually traces back to the, was it year 1987, when I heard my first house music track from radio. I was actively listening my little radio at that time, and we had those days those cassette recorders. So I was
Hmm.
always doing my own mixtapes. I was recording my favorite tracks from the radio programs, and back in those days in Finland, there was still, active scene in that sense already. In the beginning of the house music journey, when it arrived to Europe. So I think it was 1987 when I heard Love Can't Turn Around.
Mm.
So that was my first encounter, and I kind of felt that track, and I would say that that was the beginning of my house music journey. And interestingly enough, since it was produced by legendary Jesse Saunders, my journey turned to be that my, so to say, comeback, because I actually started the international recording. The first international recording was 2007. Then I had a little break, and my comeback was done by Jesse Saunders' own label, Broken Records, where
Mm.
we produced together a track titled Mr. Fly, that was written and composed by me. And he loved that, and he wanted to produce it. So the world is really small if you think
Yeah,
about it, and my
it's come
journey
full
has
circle.
been
Yeah.
very exciting in that sense, and very interesting, so yeah, but that was the start, to my house music journey. So very much not totally in the beginning, but very close to the beginning years
Hmm.
of the house.
Yeah, I don't know very much about Finland house music scene. I mean, of course, I mean everyone's familiar with Darude, and
Yeah,
I think one of the guys from Above and Beyond is from Finland.
yeah,
And then I remember in the '90s, this is going to make me sound really old, but I remember there was this band called Third Nation that was doing some house music and Eurodance and whatnot. But I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know much about like the actual like proper house music scene in Finland. What is that like? Is there a lot of house music happening in Finland, like that on the proper house side?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned, because those are the ones that actually really, you could say, that made it bigger here.
Yeah.
Exactly those ones. And then the other genres really, like, they are not internationally acclaimed projects or artists. They are different genres. But when it comes to house, or a little bit housey
Hmm.
music, those are the ones. The scene here is small, but it's kind of vibrant, I
Yeah.
would say, and especially during the summer months. There's always those lovely outdoor house parties, and clubs, and so on. So there's this group of very active, even old school DJs, so to say, who still, since they started to run the scene in the end of 80s, beginning of 90s, they are kind of still much around, many of them, and also then a little bit younger generation. So we have that small but active scene, and
Hmm.
they are, so to say, in charge of bringing, in most of the cases, also those international house music artists to clubs, local clubs here. So they keep
Mm.
it alive, very much alive. But
Oh.
house music itself, it's still not the mainstream music, so to say. I think it follows what is happening everywhere in the world. That even though
Mhm.
house music is very popular, but it's still not mainstream music, and so forth. So I would say that's the similar case here as well. but nice, wonderful clubs and few artists, including myself. So, hello, shout out to all Finnish house music scene. We are trying to, we are not many, but we are trying to be very active.
Yeah. So do you DJ around at different clubs in Finland?
Well, I'm working on that for coming summer. I recently came back to DJing after being a long time away from that. When I was young, in my youth, I was doing some DJing, it was, however, more, playing music that was popular in a disco and so on. So sometimes it included house, sometimes it included some Italo disco and stuff that are or were popular at that time here. So I was a long time away from that, but I recently decided to kind of come to do my comeback in DJing as well. So that's on my agenda now to go and play around local clubs also here in the scene when the summer is arriving.
Yeah. Very cool. And I'm sure that will be a lot of fun when on the patios or the terrace sets or whatever, like, or in the clubs or wherever. That'll be so fun. Yeah. So I guess if you had to, like, say a certain, I guess, subgenre of house music, I guess, do you align with a certain subgenre more than others? Just for people who may not be familiar with your music yet. Are you more like on the soulful side, deep house, Jack in?
Yeah. Well, in my case, obviously, as a singer, I tend to lean to the soulful house.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So many of my releases really are under the genre of soulful house, but I also do a little bit like a disco house, new disco, a little bit funky house, flavors. And also I have been doing a lot, it depends on what kind of collaborations, for instance, I've been involved. I've done also Afro house quite much when collaborating with a South African Jay Malo. So you can sometimes surprisingly find me and my music in something else, in some different subgenre than you might, usually think of.
Yeah, very cool. It's good to be versatile and have I think as artists, it's fun for us to try different sounds and subgenres and not get pigeonholed into one thing. So yeah, that's really cool.
Absolutely.
So just changing gears a little bit. So you have the podcast, Heidi's House Podcast. What prompted you what was the motivation there for starting the podcast?
Okay, that's fun question to ask, and I've been asked that before, and I've been sharing a little bit in one previous interview, but now I'm gonna tell you the whole story.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm here for it.
Well, it was a few years ago that one friend of mine really, who invited me as a guest in his online broadcasting, and after that, he kind of told me that, Heidi, you did really well in that interview and in that broadcasting. That have you ever considered of making your own podcast or something like this? And I was like, oh, really? Do you think? I was really surprised, but kind of he gave me first that spark to start to even think about the podcast. And then I was like, well, what I could do podcast off, what could be the topic. And then it dawned on me kind of like quite naturally that, well, about the things that you love, music, house music, and so on. But I left it for a moment and I thought that, well, I've been so busy and maybe it's not for me, or, I'm not sure how it would work out, but it somehow stayed there in my mind. And then what happened was that in the beginning of this year, my life partner happened to mention that, Heidi, you really should do a podcast. And I was like, oh my, that, I've been having this thought for a few years now in my mind. I haven't been mentioning about it, and I've been just pondering that should I do it or shouldn't I? But I kind of left it there. But when he mentioned that, I don't know, Tony. It was just something that I felt that, okay, now is the time. That there has to be something, that I'm just gonna now do it, and let's see. And I wanted to really focus on that idea that let's explore the house music culture and the global house music culture. And since I also have been working with such many different music producers and artists, and I have networked in tremendous way, then I said to myself that, you know what, you already have such a beautiful group of people and a community, also in my social media. Like, you know what, let's start to share their stories.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about their stories, and I love it, and they are very interesting. And so I thought that, okay, why not let the others hear about this? So that's the thing. So I'm embracing my fellow artists as well there, and it's just absolutely fun, and it just somehow kind of then felt right, even though in the beginning I was kind of a little bit hesitant that do I have what it takes and how to make it run. But as you know yourself, how it is that people tend to be having very nice and supportive and positive attitude when it comes to having this kind of very natural, organic, conversational approach, and people warm up to that, and I love it because that's how I want to do it. I didn't
Yeah.
want to make it too formal. I wanted to make
Sure.
it like that. It's a reflection of me, and it's a reflection of that person being interviewed. So yeah, that's the story behind of that, and I'm really truly enjoying it. And I love it that it also, gives me chance to get to know even more and more people and network, like with you now.
Yeah,
I,
totally.
I, I wouldn't be talking with you if I
Yeah.
didn't, then take on that suggestion and challenge, and then, trusted myself that, okay, let's do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
the
and
background.
it's a really I don't know, an efficient and inexpensive way for people to connect who aren't living in the same city, and not everyone can get to ADE every year, and so we don't have as many opportunities to connect as we'd like. So
Yeah.
I think podcasting is a great way. Of course, I mean, I'm biased, but
Yeah. It's
yeah,
okay.
great way to connect and just to share stories and yeah, hopefully the listeners are getting that same feeling of connection as well. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see, you mentioned singing, you mentioned like DJing and sing and doing the classical piano thing, and then
Mm.
shifting over to the contemporary, and you have a background in singing. When did you first sing on a record?
The first really like internationally released record was that 2007
Mm-hmm.
release, which was released at Cult Records in New York. And I was a part of a duo. We titled ourselves Inari Project. And we did a few tracks together. It was during my time when I was living in Berlin, in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And in that project, we then landed that deal with the Cult Records, and that was really the first proper recording. I had done another recordings in a singing group, for instance. I have been, part of a cappella group and so on, but
Mm-hmm.
not as a solo artist. We were recording cover tracks, for instance, cover
Okay.
tracks with a cappella arrangements, and then other studio projects where I recorded, and was working on the tracks, but they really didn't take off. They were more or less, independent releases and so on. So I would say that the first proper one was with Cult Records on 2007.
Cool. Let's see. And you've been going. You said you took a break and then you came back. So I guess how long was your break, and what was your first record after your break?
The break was about, let's see. Well, they came a few remixes and so on, but I basically had about 7 years of break.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I decided to come back. And that's also interesting journey because I came back first to performing live, doing jazz gigs,
Okay.
clubs and performing live music in duos and so on. But then eventually my drive to come back to release my own music, it was so strong that I just had to,
Yeah.
get back to the studio, and I started to produce my own music, and I started to post it, and spread it in social media and so forth. And then it caught, for instance, Jesse Saunders's attention, and it started to grow there. So he contacted me and asked if I would be interested to collaborate with him, and then it really took off again, so to say.
Very cool.
So that was the transition. So I kind of was a few years, because of personal reasons, away, but you can't if you have that drive inside, it just you can't help it, you have to come back to it one way or the other, I think.
For me, that's been the case. I had given up on music for a while. I was like, and then I finished college, and then I started a career and family and everything. But there was always, like, in the back of my mind, like in my heart, there was always this music kind of calling me, and the music never really. I mean, I left the music scene for a while, but the music never left me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I ended up coming back to it, and yeah. I think that's true for a lot of people. It's just, it never really goes away, and it'll always be a part of us. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking, that for whoever is watching this, that if you have that drive and passion and this burn inside that you want to do it, please do it, because it doesn't mean that we need to be necessarily making huge amounts of success or so on. Already, because of the quality of the live and really truly expressing yourself and your well-being and being fully it's very important. So whoever still might be pondering, should I come back, please do.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. It's
Your
very
music
good for you
deserves to
do.
get heard. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody has, like, something to bring to the table. So
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. We have our own unique ways and voices and ways to envisions to make music and our own sound. So, there's room for everybody.
For sure. So let's see. I'm going to circle back into, like, into kind of like how you got into house music. I guess, what was it about house music specifically that kind of pulled you in?
I think the fact that first of all the beat, the beat there, the rhythmic element, but then at the same time, especially in the genre of soulful houses, that you have that respect of so to say classic song structure and so on. So that's something that is really appealing to me, that you really can dance to it and vibe to it and have party and fun into it, but you can also sing along, so that's my cup of tea, so to say. What gets under my skin, when it comes to house music, or it's that bug that bites me, and you're never cured after that.
Right, exactly. So do you still sing jazz? You mentioned jazz earlier. Do you still sing jazz?
I do still sing jazz at home. I'm taking sometimes moments when I take my keyboard and I really just,
Yeah.
vibe into those jazzy tracks. And who knows, I have had moments and times when I go and just decide to perform a little bit.
Hmm.
But, maybe one day again, you might, find me suddenly doing a jazz gig.
Yeah. Cool. Be sure to record that so we can all hear it. Yeah.
Yes.
I think a lot of us who like soulful house and deep house, we also like jazz. A lot of us anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So,
I'm actually very glad that I have been exploring different genres of music because it does help me to orientate into different
mm,
kind of project. Some producer might want me to do something more jazzy, or they send me a track if I'm doing collaboration
hmm,
and producing the vocals for somebody else. So it's really good to have that in your toolkit,
yeah.
or any other kind of tools, other genres, understanding. You can add some special flavor, and it just makes the work with the producers also easier when you have a little bit more background in
Mm,
in different genres.
yeah, that makes sense. So let's see. You mentioned that when you after your break, you started producing your own tracks. Had you
Mhm.
produced before that?
Well, yeah, I was doing little home productions, and
Mhm.
I started with the Cubase. Actually, I
That's what
had
I
a
use now.
little
Yeah.
home studio, and I started to learn Cubase, and I made basic, little projects and so on. Didn't really release much. I did do some demos and so on, but eventually I started to release. And the first releases that really were, proper ones, were done in a collaboration with another music producer who had really nice studio,
Mm,
professional studio. So I got to work with him, and while we worked there, I was in charge of all the vocal production, writing the vocals, lyrics, performing,
mm,
then we looked all the structures there. So I kind of learned by doing a lot about the studio work. Sometimes I ended up, because of knowing so well the keys, so I ended up playing the keys and instruments
mm,
for these projects of him or ours. And so eventually I really kind of got so comfortable that I started to do more and more and more
mm,
things myself. But truly, when I then decided to come back on producing, and I kind of had that drive to truly release my own stuff, so I took time and effort and enrolled to different courses. I properly tried to educate myself on music production,
mm.
recording techniques,
Yeah.
and things like that. That has
So
been super helpful, obviously, in many ways, and it eventually led me to found my own record label and things like that. So it has been quite a journey
yeah.
and evolution in that sense. One thing leading to another, and when you kind of have a taste of one area, then you kind of get hungry for more, and
Right.
you know how it is
Yeah.
since you produce it as
Hmm.
well. So
Yeah.
um, but I think it was an investment that has been paying itself in many ways.
Mm,
Just taking time to properly learn, and at the same time also having open mind to learn from others and observe how the
mm.
other people are doing it. So it has been kind of like a that kind of journey for me. And
So did you
yeah,
take production courses like from a local college, or did you go do online
I
training?
took paid online courses. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Was it like through Point Blank or like Sonic Academy?
Oh, I don't remember now anymore. What were the things? It's quite
Yeah,
a while ago. It's like
yeah,
when I started to do that, it was 2016.
yeah,
Yeah, when I really started to then take. But I took a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. So, if you could go back in time and tell your younger self some advice, what would that advice be?
Oh, I would say just trust that you can learn new things, that
Hmm.
don't wait so long, maybe
Hmm.
just take on the challenge, be bold
Hmm.
enough, and just have courage enough to try. I kind of you know refer to that music production side, and I don't know if it's something that we I wouldn't like to bring it to the genre thing, but the fact is that we have still less female music producers or people involved in music production. So maybe there was some kind of invisible barrier in my
Hmm.
mind
Yeah.
somehow, that I kind of didn't think that it's not to say possible for me to learn, because I of course I know that it's possible for me to learn, but to trust that I can do this thing too.
Yeah.
So I would now say to myself that just go girl and do it.
Yeah.
Keep going, because it's gonna get just better.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, I mean, this has come up in other conversations. And so I hope for listeners, this doesn't sound too repetitive, but this has, I mean, there has been kind of like this history of the industry being very male dominated,
Yeah.
and almost all the producers are men. And I just, like you said, I wonder if because 20 years ago, or maybe even more recently than that, it was, I mean, because it's so male dominated, I just wonder if there has been like
Hmm.
that mental block, for some people that think that, oh, maybe it's not even like, it doesn't even like register as like a thing to even do, but
Yeah,
I'm glad that there's more women out there. Like
me
we need
too.
you all.
Yeah.
I'm glad that there's more women who are producing and, you know, making it more of a, making it less of a mental block
Mm.
for other women to
Yeah.
want to get into production. So yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
I hope that with my example, if I can be example or inspiration for somebody, that really that they are encouraged to do this, because it shouldn't be really a gender matter. But I'm kind of vibing with you and feeling that what you were saying, that somehow, um, since the industry is so male dominated, that maybe it is kind of some kind of mental blockage or hindrance or thought that you
Hmm.
just don't do it. Maybe it has to do with some kind of just um, expectations or
Yeah.
roles, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to just see more female also to get into producing, also into
Mm.
DJing.
Yeah.
DJing has been more open for a while, longer while already, but
Hmm.
um, it's nice to see female producers as well, and female label owners, or
Yeah.
and actually now we're speaking on a wider terms. It shouldn't have to do with any kind of genre issues.
Yeah.
We just should let in my opinion, let our voices be heard, and our
Yeah.
visions to be seen and heard, because it's just very fruitful and interesting for everybody in that sense.
Yeah.
You hear somebody else's production and you can get inspired. So it's nothing away to have people bringing their own visions to this
Hmm.
scene, and we can all get inspired by other people's works.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. So let's see. What does your life as an artist, Heidi B, look like in 5 years?
In 5 years,
Yeah.
well, uh, obviously, I'm working on getting my Heidi B brand, so to say, more and more known when it comes to the house music scene.
Mm-hmm.
It has been growing steadily and nicely. I have gotten recognition, of course, from my vocal skills already.
Mm-hmm.
I was very humbled to have 3 years in a row. I was in the top three of best emerging vocalist in the OGV music awards, for instance. That's something that, it's telling me that I must be doing something right. That people
Totally.
are recognizing
Yeah.
things, but that's obviously, very rewarding, since I come into this whole thing as a vocalist first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what I hope to see is also my label to grow, obviously, and 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 also then doing more of the DJing, also
Yeah.
in international, environments, so to say. I love Finland, but I love to travel as well.
Yeah.
So my vision is to perform more internationally as a vocalist, as a DJ, and to grow my label. So that's where I like to see myself, somewhere there in the music festivals, connecting with new people, also in person.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of vision I'm working on.
Very cool. So I wanted to ask real quick, go back to the podcast a bit. So the format is kind of you talk with the artist, and then I think that, well, at least I mean, the episodes that I've seen, you kind of do like a DJ set that features their music. Is that kind of the standard format?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Cool.
the thing. So
Yeah.
in the every podcast, when I have my featured guest, then I'm also having a mini mix
Yeah.
in the end, which showcases or highlights some of those artists' tracks, and hopefully gives more visibility and supports their brands as well. I love to do that. I think it's a win-win for everybody, and maybe really brings more awareness, or can be used for promoting their new releases. Like, I
Yeah.
was really happy to have Anaya Weathers' latest release, Down for You. It
Mm.
was actually a world premiere when it was
Mm.
played in my little mini mix set. So I was like,
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
so happy about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's nice template, and it's a part of that
Yeah. Very
podcast thing of
cool.
mine.
It gives it a little bit more of a dimension, another dimension for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as far as your label goes, you said you wanted the label to grow. Are you accepting demos? Some listeners might want
Uh,
to submit to some demos. I know.
Yeah, the High Vibe label is really a boutique label
Yeah.
of Heidi B.
Mm.
So I do accept demos, but all the releases are really, having the vocal productions by yours truly.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm working. We have currently, 18 different music producers around the world that work with me,
Mm.
and we release new music with me being in the vocals and in charge of the vocal productions. So I do listen very regularly, and I receive demo ideas, instrumentals,
Mm.
and if I'm vibing to something, and it's something that could fit into my vision and into my brand, and the style of the High Vibe label, then yes, I'm open to any kind of collaborations.
Mm.
And yeah, it has been expanding a lot. We started with few people, me and few other people, and now, as mentioned, we are about 18 people already, so it's
Mm.
steadily
Very
growing.
cool.
So
Yeah.
yes, you can send me demos, and I'll take a listen. I'm open to great ideas.
Awesome. So, what are some upcoming projects? Do you have any big projects in the works right now that you're excited about that you want to share with listeners?
Well, this is a perfect time now. I know that this must be aired a little bit later, but
Hmm.
as a matter of fact, now today is a official release day of my latest production, Heidi B,
Hmm.
titled Intellect. It's a
Okay.
techie house, a little bit
Yeah.
techie or electro, actually more electro style, a bit fusion.
Yeah.
I got a bit experimental with that, to be honest. So today is a release date of that production of mine, and I'm very excited to see how it's received.
Hmm.
I got a lot of nice feedback already from my promo pool people,
Yeah.
influencers, and then we have next coming collaboration between Portuguese music producer and DJ Chris Marquez
Okay.
and myself, titled Your Touch. And
Mm.
that is again a bit fusion. I think they will be, putting it under soulful house anyway, but it does have also a bit piano flavors in it,
Mm.
a bit, I would say.
Yeah.
And that's gonna come out on 10th of May,
Okay.
and I'm very, very excited about that as well. So those are two recent projects, and High Vibe is releasing steadily music. We have something coming up almost, well, actually monthly. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So I don't want to, put out also too much music
Yeah.
out there. I don't want to exhaust people. I want to also give a little bit lifespan to the
Totally.
releases and so on.
Yeah.
So I think already once a month is quite a lot. And when you think about the remixes on top of that, so we
Yeah.
have the steady flow of releases coming
Hmm.
in. But these are the latest two now.
Very cool. So, just for listeners, today that we're recording this is April 26th, and the episode will probably be out at the end of May. But yeah, it could be a little bit later than that, depending on different things and maybe having to reschedule a couple of things. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'll be sure to include links to your track source and your Instagram and all that so that people can find you. But yeah, is there anywhere specific that you would like people to visit or find you or connect with you? Or what platform?
Yes, there is, and I actually have to add
Hmm.
uh, one more release, which
Sure.
I just have to mention it.
Yeah, sure.
It's a cover of Make
Mm.
My Dreams of Reality," and it was produced by Nick Power. Uh,
Okay.
so that's a great project to be within, and I'm doing a co-vocals there, so I'm also being featured there, so check that out too. So just to
Good.
mention about that. But
Sure.
yeah, you can find me in social media from Instagram, Heidi B Music.
Hmm.
And then you can also find me in Facebook, also Heidi B Music. So that's how I have named my social media accounts. I used to have more, but I noticed that running everything and
Hmm.
updating everything takes a bit too much time for me. So I want to make my life somehow more manageable with
Mm.
all my daytime job, my label running, my project, my DJing, my
Yeah.
podcast, and everything.
It's a lot.
So,
Yeah.
so I reduced my social media into two, and then obviously the podcast itself, it's available for watching in my YouTube channel, Heidi B Official. So there you can find little clips and videos of High Vibe Label's latest releases,
Mm.
and then the Heidi's House podcast that we talked about before. So those are my
Yeah.
main forums, so to say.
Cool. I'll be sure to include links to all of those in the show notes and the description so that users can easily link there. All right.
Great,
Well,
thank
before
you.
we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to leave listeners with?
Well, just like mentioned, all my releases are available in all the major digital music outlets. So if you are interested to find out, you can find them in Beatport and Traxsource and many more. So that's something. And I also want to say, of course, thank you,
Yeah.
Tony, for having this interview and connecting with me, and you are doing amazing job with your podcast,
Well, thank
and
you.
I'm just very
Ditto.
grateful that you know connected with me, and that we do this kind of collaboration so people support this podcast, and glad that you are watching us, and
Yeah.
and I'm very grateful of this opportunity. So this
Yeah.
is what I wanted to share with
It's
you
been
as
it's been a
well.
pleasure and it's been fun. So, and I'm excited for all of your projects and your label and all the things that you have going on. And I'm sure it'll just share that message of house music out there even more, and people will resonate with that. So,
Yeah.
thank you for being so willing to come onto the podcast. And I love that we're seeing it as collaboration, because there's, I don't know, competitive vibes don't really. There's
Yeah.
no need for that, and there's room for all of us, like you said
No.
earlier. So
Yeah.
I love it. Hey friend, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. As producers today, it can be really overwhelming to keep up with all the tasks that we need to complete. So I've created a free toolkit that can help you. I call it my release roadmap. This tool helps you to gain clarity on all of your tasks related to music production, demos, releases, and social media, so that you can spend more mental energy on making music. Learn more about this free roadmap by visiting tonyfuel.com/roadmap, or click the link in the description below. Again, that link is tonyfuel.com/roadmap. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.